Hello, everyone, and welcome to our program titled All Things Energy for PSAB Members. My name is Carrie Shepard, Marketing Analytics Manager for APPI Energy, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Please note that all participant lines are muted. Submit questions anytime during the session by using the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. Our presenter today is Noel Temple, Energy Consultant with APPI Energy. Welcome, Noel.
Thank you, Carrie. First I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy days to join us here today. And secondly, I really want to thank PSAB. We've really enjoyed our partnership with the association over the last several years. APPI and PSAB first partnered in 2011. Our firm offers energy consulting services to members, and currently we're working with a little over 2,000 contracted accounts for PSAB membership. And in total, that's a little bit over 200 actual members of PSAB. So in the bottom right, you can actually see a map of where APPI works. The states in the green are deregulated for electricity and natural gas. So you have the opportunity to shop and negotiate competitive pricing in those states. The blue states are deregulated for just natural gas. A little bit later on, we'll get into a new division that we're super excited about. It's our Energy Solutions division that helps with efficiency and sustainability measures, but that's for all companies across North America. Today, we will be talking a little bit about the industry, our unique procurement process, and that new Energy Solutions division that's now available to PSAB members. One of the biggest questions APPI gets asked is, energy is a very confusing topic. So how does power actually get delivered to the end user? And I think this is a great breakdown of how that process takes place. Another important thing to note is when you actually receive your electric bill every single month, the cost that goes into that, there's really two parts to it. The first part is supply or generation. So it's the actual electricity that your borough would consume during the month. And then the second part is distribution. So that's your local utility, whether that's Penelec, West Penn Power, PECO, who is responsible for getting that power to you. And they're responsible for the lines as well. So on the supply side, there's a couple components that actually go into the supply price. So that one would be the generation. And that comes from a number of sources, whether that's coal, natural gas, or renewables. A lot of states nowadays have something called renewable portfolio standards that basically tells these generational entities that a portion of electricity on the grid has to come from renewables like wind, like solar. And then some of the other costs are capacity costs, transmission, ancillary, and line loss. What's really important to note is the left portion of this slide, that is the actual portion of your bill that you have the ability to negotiate, whereas the right side of your bill, your delivery costs, are fully regulated, so you don't have the opportunity to shop those rates. With the energy markets, it's important to note that it is a commodity. All commodity markets are extremely volatile. They change day by day. Pricing is always fluctuating. There's a number of factors that can actually move energy markets. Things like the polar vortex actually drove energy markets to spike. Any type of speculation, again, drives pricing. But in the bottom left, you see a chart. It's the natural gas pricing, wholesale pricing dating back a decade. And then the top right-hand chart is electricity pricing in PJM, which is Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland. It's wholesale pricing of electricity dating back a decade. What's very important here is the correlation between electricity and natural gas pricing. I think a lot of members, when we talk to them, they say, well, we always hear about, natural gas markets are up, but we're only looking at electricity. Why are you talking about natural gas? The reason for that is the last available fuel source suppliers turn to meet the demand of the grid. It's actually natural gas. So when natural gas pricing is elevated, you'll often see that reflected in electricity pricing. And again, with commodities, it's important to note that timing of going out into the market is crucial. Our firm really works hard tracking the market to ensure that when you ultimately, as a PSAB member, go out to shop for pricing, you're doing so at an opportune time. One of the ways we help members do that is through price benchmarking and market trends. We have a relationship with the Energy Research Council, who really leads the industry in market intelligence. ERC has the ability to collect supplier actual pricing, and they compile it into a database. Now, that database allows our firm to track supplier pricing in specific utilities in specific states. So for a PSAB member that's located in the PECO electric utility, the bottom left-hand chart was something that we created for a member that actually shows pricing in PECO, how electricity pricing has trended over the last 2 years. And you can actually see that at any point in time. The beauty of the Energy Research Council and the data that they have available to us is we can customize these charts specific to the actual borough. So for example, if a borough has a renewal date of October 2020, we can work with the Energy Research Council to gather pricing points and see how suppliers have been quoting October 2020 renewal date. So our recommendations actually are something that you can take to the board and review that to see if it is a good time to ultimately proceed with the supplier offer. The top right chart is called the blue ocean chart. That's how we refer to it here at APPI. But it's really important to note that it shows the spread of high to low electricity supplier pricing. And it's very important, and we pride ourselves on sending an opportunity out to all available suppliers in your given utility. Because as you can see, if you're only going out to 5 or 6 electricity suppliers and they happen to be on the high end of the market, you're really missing out on a lot of opportunity. Another very important thing to note that a lot of people don't think of is, yes, with deregulation, yes, as a PSAB member, you have the opportunity to shop for pricing and lock into fixed supplier agreements. But some people actually haven't transitioned to supplier fixed offers. And those that have yet to make the change are often paying the default tariff, which is a set price that the utility puts in place for customers that are not on third-party supply. It's always a fallback option for boroughs, and I think it gets lost kind of in the water along the ways of deregulation, that people forget to compare the recommendations that they make to the price to compare, because that always is an option. So our firm actually tracks these utility price to compares over time, and we help members understand, if you sign today for 3 years at 5.5 cents, we want to ensure that that price is competitive versus the utility default tariff, so you don't end up overpaying over time. APPI, we have a unique procurement process. It's actually how we go out to market on your behalf to get you aggressive electricity and natural gas pricing. The way that we do that is through a custom analysis. Every single PSAB member is unique. Every single PSAB member uses electricity and natural gas a little bit different, whether that's through the number of street lighting accounts, or if they have a water authority, or if they just have different municipal buildings with different hours of operation. Ultimately, once we gather the information, we will submit it to our pool of vetted suppliers, which is right now in excess of 40 electric and natural gas suppliers. Once we have those suppliers review the data that we collect, we ultimately recommend that they send pricing on the date of a borough council meeting, so the actual council can review pricing that is legitimate. So because energy markets change every single day, it's important to have pricing from suppliers come in on a day where you have time during the month to actually review those offers and ultimately move forward with something if it makes sense the following day. And then once we've identified as a team, APPI and PSAB members, the low bidding supplier in the most favorable term, we'll actually negotiate the supply contract on your behalf with the supplier. So to summarize, really all our firm needs to do an analysis for you is the most recent month's electric and natural gas bill. That's probably the most tedious thing through this whole process, because a lot of boroughs have several different electric bills and natural gas bills coming in every month. And then we also need something called a letter of authorization. Now that it's very important that we get that. The reason for that is because it allows our team to go to your host utility, whether that's Penelec, West Penn Power, and we'll collect 12 months worth of usage data on your account, so we can actually see exactly how you're using the power. Now with that, we provide that information to the suppliers, and once we have that 12 months worth of usage data, it takes out a lot of unnecessary premiums that would otherwise be built into the pricing. So it's a great tool to help drive suppliers to a lower margin to ensure that you're getting the best pricing possible. This is an example of the deliverable that we put together for PSAB members. Again, we typically have suppliers send pricing in on the date of a council meeting because markets do change every single day. In this instance, this PSAB member had a renewal of January 2021. So our firm was extremely proactive with the markets. We actually saw an opportunity for this PSAB member to review pricing and ultimately potentially lock in a renewal that far in advance that wouldn't begin until their current contract obligations were met. So the transition between suppliers would be seamless. And the other thing to note is, again, we cast a very wide net. We send this RFP, this request for pricing on your behalf, out to all credible suppliers in the utility. And we have them send pricing that ranges from 12 months all the way out to 60 months. And you can easily see the difference between supplier pricing. You can see some suppliers coming in much higher than the rest. And then there's a few that are extremely competitive, like Constellation, like Freepoint, on this particular opportunity. And on the right-hand side, you see notes listed about what differentiates each supplier offer. A thing that we like to do for PSAB members is build in 100% swing, meaning that your usage can actually increase or decrease 100% from previous year's levels on the contract without any type of penalty. Now, as the industry has really evolved, a lot of people are looking at doing efficiency and sustainability projects. Some suppliers have contract language in place that prohibits customers from making that change. And it's something called material adverse change language, or no on-site generation. So we make note of that. So if it is something that you're considering to, implement solar panels, you're protected from that. And APPI, a great value add that we bring to the table, and it's important for any PSAB member to have this, is once you're signed up, we don't just disappear. We have a fully staffed customer service team that's here at your disposal. I know a lot of PSAB members, they wear a lot of hats. They have a ton of different responsibilities, and energy is just one part of that. So when you partner with APPI, we take that off the plate for you. We ensure that our customer service team ensures that the transition between suppliers, between electricity renewals and natural gas renewals is seamless. I mentioned previously that we do the negotiations with the supplier on your behalf, so you don't have to spend time out of your day picking up the phone, calling a 1-800 number to try and get a hold of somebody. If you call APPI and have any questions, we answer right away. Another thing that a lot of boroughs might not know or might not be aware of is all boroughs are tax exempt. Our firm ensures that the supplier that you proceed with honors your tax exemption status. For whatever reason, if you had been improperly charged state sales tax in the past, our firm can work with that supplier to recoup up to 2 years of back taxes on your behalf. And then, like I mentioned, we're extremely proactive with the energy markets. We're always looking at future cost reduction opportunities for you as a client. So it might be that you sign a 3-year deal and 12 months into that contract energy markets dip at that time, our firm would reach out and advise you that there might be an opportunity to layer on additional coverage at a discount. This is something APPI is so excited about. It's our new energy solutions division. What's really important to note here is with energy solutions, energy efficiency, there's no one shoe that fits all. A lot of times we have clients come to us saying, we have interest in solar. So we really do our due diligence on all the potential projects and technologies out there. So we'll do an analysis of your current situation. Oftentimes we do a facility assessment where we'll come out and see if a project like solar would make sense. And you guys would be surprised. A lot of times we might go down the path of looking at solar and we come up with something totally different that makes more sense. But the goal of this division, the energy solutions division for PSAB members, is ultimately to reduce your energy demand. By doing that, you're going to reduce your energy costs. For a long time, all people in the industry focused on was getting the lowest price possible. It's really exciting to see the market evolve. Now people are actually looking at ways to use as little power as possible. So when you combine the two, it's really a win-win. By doing that, reducing your energy cost and reducing your demand, you're going to increase your energy sustainability across the borough. Here are a few of the projects and technologies that APPI offers for our clients. One of the biggest ones we're seeing right now is LED lighting. There's a lot of opportunity for boroughs to improve their old bulbs that might be fluorescent bulbs that are not as efficient as some of these new LED bulbs. You can swap those out, and the savings is usually pretty substantial. Another great thing that we do for members of PSAB is we make sure that you're collecting any rebates or tax incentives at the utility level, because oftentimes they have a pool of funding available for these types of projects. Something else we offer is utility bill management. I know a lot of PSAB members, that again is one of the biggest headaches. You have a ton of invoices. Our firm has the ability to upload all your utility invoices, electric, natural gas, cable, water, all into an online software, an online data management system that actually tracks the utilities for you. So if there's something that looks a little bit off, it'll flag it. And then we work with the utility company to rectify the situation on your behalf. Solar is another huge topic. A lot of boroughs, sometimes they have a lot of unused land. If that's the case, you have the opportunity to do something like a solar installation. APPI, by the numbers, we have been in the industry since 1996. Actually, we're one of the oldest and largest energy consulting firms. We currently are managing a little over 15,000 commercial and industrial accounts. So much like PSAB, we work with members all across Pennsylvania of different types of industry, and then we work in every state that's deregulated. In Pennsylvania alone, we're managing almost 8,000 customer accounts. And through our platform, we're actually managing 10 billion kilowatt hours and 18 million decatherms that are under our management. So when we go out to bid on your behalf in the market, we have quite a purchasing clout that can be leveraged to your benefit. And then again, much like PSAB, they took their time, they did their due diligence on APPI and ultimately determined that we were a great fit for their membership. There's been 157 other trade associations that have done their due diligence on our firm and ultimately endorsed us and made our program available to membership. I'm happy to say that I was one of the earlier employees, not too early, but I was 37th. Our team is growing. It's a great group of people here. I really enjoy who I work with, and we'd obviously love to be a part of your team as well. And thank you all for taking time to join us. Any questions?
Thank you, Noel. At this point, we do invite participants to ask questions through the webcast system. If you have difficulty sending your question, please email them to Noel Temple, ntemple@apppienergy.com, as you see on your screen. Noel, I do have one question for you. What if a member is currently in a contract that does not expire until October of 2022?
So that's a great question. What I would say to that is I would encourage there to be a dialogue between our teams. While that might be a little bit too early to do anything, it really truly never is too early to actually shop. So you can always have suppliers price your renewal date. We could have them send pricing in to establish a price benchmark. And it doesn't mean you have to lock into agreement. You're not committed to doing that by working with APPI, but it's just a great way to see where pricing is towards your renewal date. And then over the next several months, we could track supplier pricing until we catch a low point and it makes sense to layer on additional coverage.
Great, thank you. I did receive another question via chat.
Okay.
If you have a material adverse clause in the agreement, does that clause allow you to transfer over to renewable generation without penalty, or is it a prohibition from doing a conversion?
So it is case-by-case basis. It's something that our legal team here would have to take a look at. It's, again, material adverse change language is something suppliers put in place to protect themselves, because when you ultimately lock in a price, they go out into the market and they buy enough power to meet your usage over the life of that contract. So it's something we'd have to look closely at, but typically if you give a supplier notice, it's no guarantee. Sometimes they'll work with you on finding a resolution. But for example, if you use 1,000,000 kilowatt hours and you install a solar system that covers all of your usage, there could potentially be an issue there. That's why we pride ourselves on having that dialogue prior to entering into contracts. So if it is something you consider, whether it's a solar installation, we can actually place you with a supplier that doesn't have language that prohibits you from doing that during the life of the agreement.
Thank you. And as a follow-up to that, I have two questions which you can kind of address them both at the same time. Does the analysis cost the borough to determine if solar is the best route for a borough to receive this service? And in addition, could you explain if there is a cost for our services?
That's a great question. So all the work that we do, there is no upfront cost and no obligation to work with APPI. It's a member benefit. So we ultimately would gather the information on your behalf and we would send it out to suppliers, ultimately look at some projects that we might think make sense. The only time that we would ever receive any payment is if you were to proceed with a supplier recommendation that we make. The supplier would remit us what you would consider a finder's fee, and no accounts payable relationship would exist between APPI. But the assessment, there is no cost for that.
Thank you, Noel. I do have one more question for you. With the new division, the Solutions Division, could you explain in a little more detail what an optimal lighting retrofit client may look like?
Absolutely. So from what we've seen, and a lot of that depends on what utility rebates and incentives are available. Oftentimes there's certain utilities that don't have any funding for rebates, so it might not make sense to do so until those rebates and funding becomes available. But we often see that people that have lighting on in excess of 15 hours a day, they benefit the most from a lighting retrofit. But as far as improving the quality of light, everybody can benefit from that.
Thank you. It looks like at this time we have no further questions. We'd like to thank everyone for participating today. A special thank you to Noel, our presenter. Today's program is copyright 2019 APPI Energy with all rights reserved. This concludes today's program. You may now disconnect. Thank you.